So I'm really excited about this show. And I'll say this. People who know me know my passion, right? We've created a really good thing that was based on when I was diagnosed with diabetes. And I remember being on the road. I had created an activation with Shire and Takeda and Heal Together, and Edelman was the marketing company. And it was funny with that. I remember I used to call Edelman all the time, trying to figure out how I could, because they had all these amazing healthcare clients. And I remember calling, never getting anywhere, never getting anywhere. And then Shire said, Charles, we believe in this RV thing that you want to do, right? Which was, I created it because I had gone into a Walmart parking lot, and I thought I saw the big red bus that collects blood. And I said, man, with all the millions of people living with diabetes, why isn't there a collection thing like this for diabetes? Why aren't we testing people in parking lots? So I reached out to them, and I had done some other work with them too as well on a documentary that I was putting together. And they said, Charles, we love it. So next thing you know, they're flying me to New York, and guess who is the marketing company? Well, the same ones I was calling who wasn't picking up the phone before. And I kind of let them remember that too as well, but in a nice way. But it was ironic how things come 360. So, but I created that because I realized I wanted to be able to educate millions of people in one fall swoop. And I thought the best way to do that was with a television series that someone in the comfort of their own homes could sit down and say, wow, that's what I'm dealing with. And not have to navigate this crazy healthcare system. I'm waiting to see my urologist. It's been 2 weeks. I'm like, why do I have to wait 2 weeks? So if we created an energy where they could be educated, have all the experts there, and inspiration too as well. Inspiration is key. The research is amazing. All the other things that are going on are amazing. But when you talk to someone who is dealing with, and this show is going to be about fibromyalgia, but when you talk to someone who is dealing with a condition and you hear that they were curled up in a ball and in pain, or they're dealing with mental health, or they're dealing with financial issues, or they're dealing with, marital issues because of the condition, that research that may happen in 10 years doesn't help them at times today. So that's why we focus on this. And when I finished the menopause series, it was kind of like I had people reaching out saying, Charles, can you do something on this? And I thought, you know what, let me look into this. But I also have a few people who I dearly love who are living with that are very close to me. And I also focus on conditions that need more attention, because I am forever trying to understand why there is billions of dollars in healthcare advertising. There's over $23 billion in digital healthcare advertising. And almost all of these conditions have little to no exposure or reach, right? So this morning I woke up, and I was so excited about this one company that this doctor had connected me to. The CEO even sent me an email. And I thought, wow, you know what, man, they just released this great product for fibromyalgia. And I'm thinking, I saw the CEO on a couple of YouTubes. I'm thinking this is going to be a good fit. Let's, they've got something that could help women with this condition. And we produce these loving, beautiful shows. We don't have any, I'm not pushing an agenda. This is all about education and information and inspiration. We're not selling anything. We're not pushing anything. It's for the people, to give back to the people. And I sent over like 2 or 3 levels, and I'm like, okay, they could bite on one. And then got the email this morning, where I'm like just deflated, because we work so hard. And somebody sent me something the other day. It was on LinkedIn, and I had shared some frustration. And they said, Charles, you're not frustrated behind doing the shows, because you do amazing work. You're frustrated that certain people don't see it or don't get it. And I'm like, you're so right. You're so right. So when we come to these companies and we say, hey, listen, we've got something. You're dropping tons of money with ad agencies and PR companies and all of this stuff. And we've got something that literally it's lunch money for you, lunch money, and they pass, and it leaves me wondering really what this business is all about, because it's really about making sure you could still make a ton of money, and you will, but the education and the inspiration is so important. So today we're talking about fibromyalgia, and I've got a lovely lady who she gets it. She get it, man. If she was in charge of a company, we would all be doing really well. Tammy, how are you?
I'm good, and you are so right. I'm over here. Yes.
Oh man, Tammy. So I had my little rant, and but I want to get into you and your advocacy and your work and how you got started. And I love your personality. I love your passion. I love how you've embraced from probably seeing some of my work and also enjoying my passion too as well, and how you have embraced what we're trying to do. And before we start, I would love to know what you saw and what we do that made you say, man, I want to get behind what Charles is doing.
Well, I mean, you kind of just put your finger on it right there. The passion is a big part. I mean, there is a big difference between the people who look at fibromyalgia as a way to make money and those of us who look at fibromyalgia and want to help the community. I mean, yes, we have to make money too. I mean, I run a business, it's the business that funds things like the podcast and the conferences we do and all of that. But there is a big difference between this is how I'm going to, oh, these are people I can make money from. And I have a heart to help these people. And in you, I saw the heart to help our community, really.
Yeah. Yeah, I appreciate that. And you saw, and with some of the trailers and the clips, how did you enjoy? Did you see the messaging and how we could bring women together who are living with this condition and focus on telling the stories?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it had that feeling like as a patient we so often will get when we go to like a support group meeting or my alumni retreats, right? Where you're in a room full of people who actually understand you. And that is huge, right? Most of us with fibromyalgia don't really know other people with fibromyalgia. They're out there. We just don't know who they are. And that was the thing that I loved most watching your stuff, was that it had that feeling of, I'm going to be in the same room with people who get me.
Yeah. Yeah, and it works so well for a lot of our other shows, especially with the menopause series. I mean, by the time we were done, those doctors were partying and hanging out, and we had a blast. It was a big family, and we had realized that we had done something very special that was never really done before, and the people who were the guests there left totally different people.
Yeah.
I was just sharing, I said, one of the guests hadn't had relations in years, and they had, vaginal dryness. And one of the experts that we had on, or the guests that we had on, partners that we had on, had a specific product for them. And literally, she was in tears. She was just like, Charles, I can't believe this. Finally, they had, but just hearing her story, I mean, this woman has gone through some stuff, because a lot of the people with menopause also deal with other issues,
Absolutely.
and some of them are dealing with mental health. How have you seen that as far as fibromyalgia, not just dealing with the fibro, but other issues too as well?
Absolutely. It doesn't ever come all by itself, right? There are so many things that come with fibromyalgia or even before fibromyalgia. There's the mental health component of I'm living inside this body that doesn't do what I want it to do, right? And so who am I now? There's a whole lot of that. But other things too. I mean, autoimmune conditions, we see a lot of those, digestive issues, headaches, it's a whole host of things. And I actually want to rewind a little bit to something you said when you were talking about the person who got some help, right?
Yeah.
That's part
Yeah.
of the show.
Yeah.
As patients, so speaking as a patient as well as a fibro expert, but as a patient myself, we have tried so many things that didn't work, right? And so we are really gun shy of trying something new, particularly if it's going to be expensive at all, right? Because we've already invested, many of us, tens of thousands of dollars over our lives, right? But when you hear real stories from other people like you,
Yeah.
other patients who found answers, who tried a product that worked for them, who found ways to feel a little bit better,
Yeah.
that is worth so much more than all the ads, all the
Yeah.
infomercials, all the
Yeah.
things your doctor tells you in the doctor's office. Like
Yeah.
those actual patient stories of here's what helped me, here's why I think you should try it too. That
Yeah.
makes a huge difference.
Yeah. Yeah. Tell us how you started your advocacy journey, because a lot of people may be living or dealing with a condition, but they never become advocates. What how was that, and how did that whole thing play out, and how has it been?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's been a journey. So I was diagnosed with fibromyalgia. I had only been married about 6 months. It was
Hmm.
2007. That was a whole thing. Um, and for the first 2 years that I was diagnosed, it was basically like treading water, right? Like I wasn't getting worse. I was able to get a diagnosis. I was able to get some help, but I wasn't getting better either. And I had this moment where I just sort of saw the trajectory of my life and it was kind of all downhill.
Mm.
I'm like, yeah, no, that's not what I want for my life.
Yeah.
And so, talking with my doctor, she actually connected me with a health coach in
Hmm.
her office.
Hmm.
And that was the thing that started to turn things around for me.
Yeah.
And because that coach was so helpful for me, I decided to pay it forward and I became a coach. And
Mm.
so actually my advocacy work has sort of grown out of my work as a health coach who
Hmm.
specialized in fibromyalgia. And over the course of the last, almost 20 years, that has grown a lot. Right.
Hmm.
We have a podcast now.
Yeah.
We've put on our fibromyalgia wellness summits.
Hmm.
I train coaches now, and our training programs are now approved for ANCC continuing education credits. So we're going to
Wow.
start training nurses and other providers and things like that too. But
Hmm.
honestly, it all started with my own fibromyalgia diagnosis
Hmm.
and finally finding help
Wow.
and realizing how unusual that was
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
actually have help.
And when we think of people living with fibro, what are some of the main things that you hear regarding any the issues that they have navigating the system? What are some of those issues?
Yeah, so specifically the medical system, the biggest issue is that fibromyalgia is an invisible illness. You talked about your diagnosis with diabetes. It is also invisible,
Yeah.
but you can, take your bloods, you can see what your glucose levels are.
Yeah.
There isn't anything like that for fibromyalgia.
Yeah.
So we get x-rays done, we get labs done, we get MRIs done, everything
Mhm.
looks fine. So the first challenge is just getting somebody to believe you to get that diagnosis. So that's challenge number 1. Once you actually do get a diagnosis, doctors are not trained on fibromyalgia in medical school. Here in the US, we get about 9 hours or so of pain management training. That's not fibromyalgia. That's not chronic pain. That is all pain, 9 hours, right? Fibromyalgia ranks lowest in the number of research papers published in rheumatological journals, right? So it's invisible, right? There's no test to prove that what you're feeling is what you're feeling. And let's just say it, right? Because it affects more women than it does men.
Yeah.
It also gets very dismissed because of that.
Yeah.
The crazy woman's illness, right?
Yeah. 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 No, I saw that on the menopause series, and
Yes.
it was interesting. Rob was the lone man there. He was supposed to be there with his wife, but she changed her mind at the last second. But Rob went because he wanted to save his marriage, and he wanted to understand better what
Yeah.
his wife is living with. And so tell us what it's like living with fibromyalgia, and what are some of the symptoms. Is there anything that can soothe this? Are there any medications or treatments? How does a woman go about navigating some of this?
Yeah. So let's start with the symptoms. Fibromyalgia has four main symptoms. There's obviously so much more than this, but the four main symptoms are unrefreshing sleep. So we can sleep all night long and wake up and feel like we got run over by a truck. Right. So, unrefreshing sleep. We have, of course, widespread body pain. But the thing about fibro pain that is a little bit different is that it moves around because it is something that's going wrong in your brain and your central nervous system. It's not that one joint hurts. Right. So one piece of you might hurt one day, another piece hurts another day. It travels around. This is also what, adds to the crazy woman persona there, right? Because every day it's something different. We have brain fog. So there's cognitive issues, right? And then the fourth one, of course, is fatigue, where we just, and some of that, of course, is a product of if you don't get good sleep, of course, you're going to be tired, but it's a different level than just regular fatigue. So those are the symptoms. And you can imagine, right? If we start from the day, the moment you wake up, and instead of feeling rested, refreshed, you feel worse than when you went to bed, right? And you have to get your body moving in the morning, stiff, sore, maybe take your meds, lay back down, hopefully hope something's going to start working. And then you try to get through your day with a brain that's not working right, without enough energy, and with everything hurting. Of course, that's going to cause all sorts of problems, right? Being able to keep your job, your relationships, all sorts of things. And we end up feeling like fibromyalgia can be this long taking away of everything you love. Takes your hobbies, takes your jobs, takes your relationships, everything. And there is hope. Yeah. You're muted, by the way, if you're meaning to be talking to me.
Okay, tell us a little bit about that hope.
Yes. So I've mentioned a lot of the reasons why maybe we don't have hope, right? Not enough doctor education, research, all these things. That said, there is a lot that can be done to improve fibromyalgia. There are a lot of things that we can address sort of indirectly, right? That was my approach after I was diagnosed. I will say I have not had any fibromyalgia pain in almost 10 years. And a lot of what I did was tracking down any little thing that could be adding to the problem. So making sure my thyroid worked right, making sure my adrenals were functioning properly, checking to see if I had any sleeping disorders. I did, treating those, right? So one of the things that I do with all my clients and in my classes is really track down what else could be contributing to this problem, because fibromyalgia is an amplifier and it will amplify anything that you're experiencing. If you have a bad shoulder that you fell on when you were in sports in high school, it's going to amplify that, right? So we need to track all those little things down. Then we can also do a lot with our own self-management. So learning how to live within your energy budget, learning the clues that your body is giving you. Hey, I need to sit down for a minute, or, I need this or that or whatever, right? There are some medications that help with fibromyalgia. There were 3 that were approved in the early 2000s and then nothing for 15 years. We do finally have a 4th that just came out last year, which is great. But those medications alone are not going to get you there. There was actually a study done on pharmaceutical options. I believe the study happened in Italy, but one of the things that they said was no one medication can treat the constellation of symptoms that is fibromyalgia. So we really do have to attack it from all sides. But I help people feel better every day. Every day.
Naturally too as well, right?
Yes. You have to look at pharmaceuticals and other traditional medical interventions like that do have a place.
Yeah, they do.
And that place is usually to give your body the stepping stone, the break, so that then the other things will work. Yeah. So I went on a lot of medications at the beginning, and then I came back off of them. Right? Because it gave my body the space to heal. I worked on other things, nutrition, pacing, sleep, like all the things, right? And eventually was able to come off of most of those meds.
Yeah. That's awesome. And I've been talking to a lot of women lately too as well, regarding the series, and just the lack of awareness, the lack of education. I mean, I'm looking at Facebook groups who have 200,000-300,000 people in these groups, and they're literally asking each other questions about different things in fibro. And I'm just like, wow, that we should the system should really be a lot more. You shouldn't be in a Facebook group. Or matter of fact, I saw a guy today, he said he had prostate cancer, stage 1 prostate cancer on Twitter. And he's like, what should he do? And of course, you got everybody talking about ivermectin and this, that, and the other thing, and every crazy thing. And people were like, listen, go find yourself an oncologist or whatever, man. Go in a urologist or go get yourself, you shouldn't be looking for crazy things on Twitter to buy people sending you all kind of, potions and lotions. So,
right.
It's, I see that with a lot of conditions, and, it's alarming that we're not getting that information from, the experts at times, and we have to kind of go out and try things and to that effect. So you had mentioned that. Are there a bunch of lotions and potions out here that people are trying to push off, or
absolutely there are. There are supplements, like you said, lotions and potions. It's funny you call it that, because that's exactly what I say too. The lotions and the potions. There are so many things out there, and there are a lot of things that people are using in interesting ways too, like things that were never designed for fibromyalgia or now, people are using. And I think the thing that makes fibromyalgia so tricky is that sometimes those things will work, though, and they will work for certain people, but not other people. So just, Tammy take here. But I personally think that, in another 50, 100 years, we're going to realize that this big thing that we've been calling fibromyalgia is actually a bunch of different things. Or maybe there's different types, like with diabetes, right? Type 1, type 2, it's the same, but it's not the same, right? I think we're going to see that fibromyalgia is actually that way, which is why some people will, take this particular medication and it changes their lives, and other people it doesn't work at all. Because it's the same, but it's not the same.
I had worked on a beautiful series called Trial by Fire. It was based on my mom, who was dealing with CRPS, complex regional pain syndrome. And I've heard a few people say that CRPS and fibro are almost cousins. I don't know. Have you heard anything about CRPS and fibro?
Yeah, not anything like super concrete. I mean, I kind of have heard what you have heard.
Okay.
With CRPS, like usually, you can correct me if I'm wrong here, it's not totally my wheelhouse, but CRPS does usually start with some sort of injury or trauma, right?
It does,
and then your nervous system thinks that trauma is still happening, even though like the bones, the tissue, everything has healed.
That
basically,
Yeah.
Yep. And fibromyalgia is kind of similar. We don't necessarily have the same, like I injured my leg and now my leg hurts. But there's always some sort of trauma trigger, whether it's an illness or abuse or a car accident or a fall or whatever. There's usually a trigger of some kind. And then it's like this switch gets flipped in the nervous system where now we're processing everything is pain. Doesn't matter if you're hugging me, it's pain. If I'm wearing a shirt, it's pain. If it's a injection, getting your flu shot hurts a lot, right? So I think there is a lot of similarities in that nervous system component where that switch gets flipped. And now we're in a different world.
Yeah.
Right?
Let me ask you a question. So if you had a magic wand and said, man, this is what I would love to do with my advocacy in the fibro space, what would that wish look like?
That as soon as everybody is diagnosed, they get matched up with a coach. That's an easy answer because that is where we see people actually getting their lives back. It's kind of like when I don't know if this happened for you, but when you're diagnosed with diabetes, often you are sent directly to the diabetes educator, right? Let me teach you about your illness. Let me teach you how to manage it. That's what we do as certified fibromyalgia coaches. And so if people can be connected like day one with someone who has walked that road, who knows a way forward, who not only can teach you about your illness, but tell you all the inside little details. Like, here's this thing that worked for me, or, I clean my counters this way now. It's dumb stuff like that that can actually impact how well somebody lives. So if I could wave a magic wand, that's exactly what it would be. Yes, ultimately, it would be awesome if we could, have our medical system fully support fibromyalgia patients the way they need to. But that to me feels like a much taller mountain to climb than just connect people.
and I go back to the series for a second, right? And I realized also that not only does that infuse, even when I looked at my first series on diabetes, I'm like, you know what? A series like this can help millions of people say, I need to go get tested.
Yes.
And if I go get tested, I might need those medications that this company offers. I might need the metformin. I might need the insulin, whatever it might be. So even a series like this on fibro could help infuse the business where women can be led to the right places.
Exactly.
And they can find out about this new drug that just came on the market and say, listen, I want to try that. Even if it's 100,000 that said, I want to try that could bring in billions of dollars.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And that's one of the things that as coaches, we do a lot of is filling that gap of knowledge to telling people, grab your random fibro person on the street. They probably don't even know there's a new medication.
Yeah, you're
right. And so that's, talking about things like that on the podcast. Here's some things you haven't heard about that you might want to try. As coaches, talking with our clients, here's some things you haven't heard about. Ask your doctor about this. Here's how this helped one of my other clients. Talk to your doctor about whether or not that's going to help you. Obviously, we're not doctors. I'm not prescribing anything, but I can educate you. I can tell you about the experiences my other clients have had. And, I can also, because I've been doing this for so long, I have a better idea of which things are going to work for which people. So there will be some people where I'm like, you need to try this. This could really change your life. And there's other people I might not mention it to at all. Right.
Interesting.
But yes, like I said, you grab your average fibro person off the street and the information they have is probably from 30 years ago.
Wow.
Yeah.
So how do how does a man whose wife or loved one is dealing with fibro, how do they understand? How can they help understand what that loved one is dealing with? Because I've seen it where these conditions can help destroy marriages or relationships. And if someone is maybe not good at communicating, and that person is having, some emotional issues or whatever it might be, I'm sure you know way better than I. What would you suggest to a man who's listening to this podcast?
Yeah. I would, first of all, my first bit of advice would be believe whatever she tells you, right? Whether you can see it or not. Like I said, I was diagnosed 6 months after I got married. And I'm sure my poor husband was like, oh my God, what have I gotten into? Someday I want to interview him on the podcast. He keeps telling me, you're not going to like what I have to say. And I'm like, oh no, I know what you're going to say.
6 months, Lord.
But like one day I might be like, hey, can you get me a glass of water? I can't get up. Can you get me a glass of water? And the next day I'm doing like whatever, right?
Yeah,
it looks like, she's crazy.
Yeah.
So first of all, just believe her. Whatever she tells you, just believe her. And then I do think it can be series like the one that you're creating are such amazing tools exactly for this, because there's something a little bit different when you start hearing the same thing from multiple people, right? So a guy sitting there listening just to his wife, it's easy to just kind of put her in a box, like that's just her experience, right? Yeah. But when you see a group of people who are like, yeah, me too. Yeah, this is how it is for me. Here's how it is for me. It's a little different, right? You can look at that. It's a whole lot harder to dismiss. Plus, different people will say things in different ways. And so I think it gives you the opportunity to like have things click because you might be hearing it just a little bit different. So I think, watching the docuseries that we're working on, Invisible, the film that we made, that's a great option. There's another tool out there, I think, that is really, really great for helping people understand the energy part of things. And it's something called the spoon theory. Now, anybody who has fibromyalgia who's watching this probably has heard of the spoon theory. It was written by Christine Miserandino, and it gives sort of this framework to understand what it's like living with limited energy. You only have so many spoons, and you have to decide how you're going to spend them. So yeah, that can be really great. There's just so many things that we can do to help people understand, but if you start there, that'll take you a long way.
Yeah. All right. So a couple of quick questions. Yeah. Is fibro a disability?
It can be for some people. So for me, I'm still diagnosed with fibromyalgia, but like I said, I haven't had any fibro pain in almost 10 years. For me, no, fibromyalgia is not disabling. But for a lot of people and me, if I go back far enough, I filed for disability, and it absolutely can be. So the question about is it a disability or not depends on how it's impacting your life. And if it's impacting you in such a way that you can't take care of yourself, you can't take care of your life, you can't do all the things, right? Then that is a disability. And some people that might be yes, and some people that might be no.
Gotcha. Is fibro a progressive condition or disease?
I love this question. So, diabetes actually is an example I use all the time. Like any illness, if fibromyalgia is not treated properly, like diabetes, if you don't manage that properly, it can be progressive. It is going to progressively get worse. But when we talk about whether an illness is progressive or not progressive, that term generally means something where it's going to get worse no matter what you do. Like this is a downhill situation, right? Some types of MS might be like that. Alzheimer's might be like that. I don't think fibromyalgia is. I don't think it fits that category. However, I do think most people are not adequately treated. And so most people do get worse over time. But it doesn't have to be that way. It could also get better over time. And that means it's not a progressive illness per se. Does that make sense?
It does.
Distinction?
It does.
Yeah.
Give me some thoughts on brain fog.
Hopefully I'm not having any, or I won't give you any thoughts. So brain fog, it's interesting that you're doing some work with dementia, because a lot of people with fibromyalgia, when they first start to experience this cognitive dysfunction, they think, oh no, I'm developing dementia, right? Because you can't access memories, you're remembering things wrong, you leave your keys in weird places, you drive the wrong way down a one-way road. I had a client that did that with her 3-year-old daughter in the car. These kinds of things can be very, very scary. But the difference with fibromyalgia brain fog is that, again, it's not progressive, it's not degenerative. So if we can properly treat fibromyalgia, give the body and the brain the right support, whether that's supplements, better sleep, all the things, right? Your brain will work again. It'll come back online. But it can feel and look very much like dementia.
I've heard a couple people mention degenerative disc. Have you heard about that? Any thoughts on that one?
I have had so many clients that's how their fibromyalgia started, whether it was a car accident that injured their back and then ended up with degenerative disc disease, or whether it's genetic. It is the source of pain. It's the trigger that flipped the switch in your nervous system, right? And so yes, we can work on the fibromyalgia, the amplification part of things, to make sure that that pain is not being amplified. But we also have to work as best we can on the actual issue, the degenerative disc disease. And sometimes you can fix that. Sometimes you can't fix that, right? Degenerative, right? So sometimes we have, better or worse results depending on what that trigger is. But absolutely, that's something I see often.
What about stages? Are there stages to fibromyalgia?
I've heard that thrown around a few times. I don't think I've ever seen anything like super definitive, like you'd look it up in a medical manual and see it listed out like you might see for cancer, right? But it does kind of make sense to me that there would be certain stages in terms of, there's people like me diagnosed with fibromyalgia and functioning normally. There might be people where you're minimally affected, and all the way to people who are completely bedridden. I've had clients who basically were bedridden because of their fibromyalgia. So I think it kind of makes sense that there's stages, but there hasn't been anything super clearly defined and accepted as like, this is medical truth.
Yeah, gotcha. So if someone's primary care physician is just not doing a good job, who should they turn to? Who should they talk to?
That's such a hard question, because I think, honestly, the majority of providers out there are doing absolutely the best that they can with the information that they have, right? Our primary care providers, like, their information is an inch deep and a mile wide, right? Like, they have to know a little bit about a lot of things.
Yeah.
So they might not know everything they need to know about fibromyalgia. And that doesn't mean they're a bad doctor. Yeah. That's sort of a different category, right? So for me, I'm looking for a provider who treats me like a decent human being should treat another. Yeah. Believe me when I say something, right? Like, be a partner with me if I bring ideas in, listening to that. There is a lot of bad doctors out there too. Yeah. But most people are going to someone who just simply doesn't have the information. Yeah. And so the first thing I would do is, as a patient, educate yourself as much as possible,
Yeah.
right? If your doctor doesn't know, you need to know.
Mm.
And that may mean something like hiring a coach to fill that knowledge gap. That may mean listening to the Fibromyalgia podcast or reading books or, whatever it is. And then when you find something that you think might work for you, a great test is to bring it into your provider and say, hey, I ran across this. What do you think about it?
Yeah. Yeah.
The right doctor is going to say, you know what? I don't know anything about that, but let me look into it.
Yeah.
That's the doctor I want,
Yeah.
right? I don't expect them to know everything. They're not going to, right? But if they're willing to learn with me, if they're willing to try things with me, if they're willing to listen and be a partner, that'll get you a long, long way.
Yeah. 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 So what's next for you and your advocacy and your journey?
Gosh, what is next for me? Besides doing this thing with you?
Yeah, well, and that should take off and skyrocket everybody's career.
Oh my goodness. So as I mentioned at the beginning, our training programs have been ANCC accredited for continuing education contact hours. So the thing I'm working on right now is actually spreading that, right? So making sure that the nurses, physical therapists, all the people that use ANCC have to get ANCC continuing education credits every year, that they know that this is an option and a way that they can learn more to help their fibromyalgia patients.
Mhm.
At the end of the day, the whole reason that I do what I do is to help that individual person out there with fibromyalgia who is lost and frustrated and feeling hopeless. She's the one I'm doing this for. And part of that is also, let's see if we can educate some providers too, because I can only help so many people one-on-one.
I absolutely love that. And I'll say this, in all the years of working here, I think the biggest issue in healthcare at times is the messaging. And with pharma getting such a bad rap, you would think that they would do things a little bit differently. But if the ad agencies and the marketing companies who are running and taking care of their money to reach the people and create these campaigns, that's what I've seen is really actually the biggest hurdle is that a lot of these people that work for these companies, especially the ad agencies and marketing, just on a side note, they're not motivated for behind the condition. This is a job. They may have 100 other clients that are putting in millions and millions of dollars. So what they're doing is regurgitating the same thing. They're going to spend on Amazon. They're going to spend on Tubi. They're going to give Oprah some money. They're going to, give a couple of little small charities and groups. Of course, they're going to give the big charities, the groups who are so-called doing research and so on and so forth. And we know that research may take 10, 20 years before we even see something that actually makes a dent in today. And these people, I've seen people in pharma companies jump from 2 to 3 jobs in a year and a half, and then go off, and now they're a school teacher. So if those are the people who don't have a vested interest, who don't have a real passion in this condition, then it's hard to reach people. I remember talking to companies where they're like, "Oh yeah, we want to reach the Black community," and they think of a barbershop tour. I'm like, a barbershop tour. That's the extent, because they can't think outside of the box of how to do this, right? They've not lived it. So I think that a lot of these companies honestly should look at people like yourself and say, how do we reach more people?
That's right.
How do we target people? Because we really want to make a dent. And to be honest with you, instead of spending, let's say, with an Edelman and giving them $10 million to manage your $200 million, they could give Tammy 500,000, and she'd make that work to the ends of the earth.
Yeah,
You know
no
what I mean?
kidding. No kidding. And
You know?
I think too about like traditional marketing. It's things like, the glossy spread in the
Yeah,
magazine,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
And the ad on TV or whatever. You know what? I couldn't tell you the last time I actually saw a drug ad.
Yeah.
Because I don't watch TV that has commercials.
Yeah.
Right? I don't read magazines. I go read an article on a blog, right? But I don't. So like, how would you reach me?
Yeah.
As as that particular fibromyalgia patient,
yeah.
How would you reach me? You wouldn't reach me with the traditional ways at all.
No. They don't know. They don't have a clue. And I'm not sure they're concerned about that, to be honest with you. I think that they feel that they have enough doctors out there who will prescribe it to you anyhow that will win that way. But instead of really gaining the trust of the people and letting people know that we care, whether it's a device company, a pharma company, biopharma company, and let them realize that, no, we care. And what we stand for is making sure that we have the best thing for you. And we've created something that really comes from the heart and comes from trust and expert data and testing. And we hope that this can change your life. And I think that if we've gotten too caught up in titles out here, I've seen that in healthcare, we're patting each other on the back too much. Showing up, spending $1 million plus at conventions and these places where they erect these big booths and fly everybody in, spending $200,000-$300,000 on catering. I've seen it.
Yeah, oh yeah. Do you know how many actual real people I could help right now, today, with that money?
Yeah.
Right? Like, we're recording this May 26th, right?
Yeah.
May is Fibromyalgia Awareness Month. There is so much stuff that is going on with awareness. But at the end of the day, awareness is important. It can lead to all kinds of important things. But at the end of the day, survey a fibro person on the street, awareness is not the thing that they dream of. They dream of having their life back.
Yeah.
Right? And so, we could spend all this money for all these things, or we could just freaking help somebody.
That's it. I mean, what is your legacy going to be? What is your legacy going to be? How will you be remembered? Because at this point, this ride is short. I know that I spend my time trying to figure out how I'm going to help the next person.
Yeah.
And I hate to say it. I'm not, will I leave my kids something? Yes. But who was I listening to the other day? And they said, man, their fortune is not being left to the kids. Forget who it was. And I feel the same. I'm going to enjoy the ride. I'm going to help as many people as I can and make sure the family is left with something. But it's about leaving that legacy and trying to change something that you can change today. And I think that hopefully the right people will listen to this, and it's not going to come from, because trust me, an ad agency or a marketing company is not going to listen to this and say, wow, they're right.
We wish, right?
Let's change the trajectory of how we are trying to do things. But hopefully, if the right one or two people in these companies that have 4,000 vice presidents, 6,000 presidents of this, hopefully that right person says, wow, you know what? I want to get in with what they're doing. So
that's right.
Thank you, young lady. How do people contact you if they want to get some information or maybe get certified?
Absolutely. So the Fibromyalgia podcast is just at fibromyalgiapodcast.com or anywhere that you listen to podcasts. Look that up. And then you'll find our training programs at fibromyalgiacoachinginstitute.com.
I love
that. Long, but there you go.
and we are also working on a television show. It's almost like the doctors / meets Dr. Oz, because I'm like, you know what? We need to have people like you on who are just real people who we can flush out these conversations. We can go in depth in these conversations, hopefully so people don't have to go to Facebook or Twitter to get somebody pushing ivermectin on them, because I think at this point, I think ivermectin can cure everything the way they push it.
I mean, that's the way I understand it.
You know what I mean? So it's like, hopefully, um, we can create something where we can really take a deep dive. I think the focus is really going to be on women's health too, as well. I'm passionate about this, and we're going to line up some amazing experts here and shoot something that I feel is going to be a game changer, and then put it on some great platforms, and I think using that to kind of take back the power. Right?
Yes,
We
that's
need
it.
something to shake up the system. Too many people are just happy sitting on jobs out here collecting a paycheck.
Yes, yes. And and the other half of it is that as patients, we need to take back our power as patients too, right? Because going into a doctor's office, that doctor is not God, but yet we sort of treat them that way, right? Like whatever you say, absolutely. Sometimes we need to push back. Sometimes we need to say, you know what? I'm not being treated like this. Bye-bye. I think that we have elevated providers, doctors, a little bit too much, right? They know a lot. I'm not, dissing them, and they did their work, got their degree, and all those other things. But I think as patients, we are giving away too much of our power.
Yeah. Well said. Yeah. Well, thank you, young lady, and we're going to continue this, and hopefully, real soon, we will see each other in Costa Rica, and we will make something that will shake up the industry of fibromyalgia and give some women some options, some hope, educate some people, get some people certified to get out here and help these women who are looking for help. And you keep doing what you're doing, and keep sending them my way, big or small. We'll take it, because at times I think it's the small ones who actually get behind these type of projects, who still have that passion and mean it from the soul,
Yeah.
So I'll talk to you soon, and thanks so much for making the time. Oh man, that was awesome. So this is, when I hear those kind of conversations, and I'm just moved by the support. I really think there's no one that we haven't sent this to, our work. And so like I said earlier, it was more of, at times, sharing it and then wondering why somebody doesn't see how this is a benefit for them and for the people that they're trying to fight for. But I guess this is a business, and we have to just keep riding the storm. And I'm gonna be vocal about it. If you look at politics, right? We've got the Candace Owens, we've got the Tucker Carlsons, we've got the Nick Fuentes, and these people are making millions of dollars, speaking out, pushing the agenda, exposing things. And I'm not even here to do all of that. But we have to have a vocal advocate who isn't scared to push this, who isn't, bought out by having a job at one of the companies, or who isn't looking for some benefit somewhere down the line. We'll find what we need to find for our programs, and we'll make that the way it needs to be made, whether it's with smaller companies or bigger companies, or whoever it might be, because there's always going to be a company that sees the value of what we're doing, who wants to work with us, because maybe they just started and they have a heart still, and they created something because they want to see change. And I think that's what matters. So I'm going to continue to be vocal in this space. And I see the ones who are quiet, who see my stuff. I have people who reach out to me and say, Charles, I've been following you for years, and I just wanted to say, congratulations on your work. So people watching, they may not say anything, because once again, they're in the system, and they don't want to lose that $150,000 a year job. They don't want to stir things up, but I can, and I will. And we will continue to win. And these companies are going to have to work with us sooner or later, because we're creating something that is generational and for the next wave that needs to happen. So keep tuning in to Start Within. We are rocking. We're turning these things out, but like I said, I'm excited. Hopefully in 2 weeks, we're going to start the television show. We're going to shoot the pilot. That's going to be bananas. That is going to, man, it's going to look amazing. If you know my quality and you know what we do, the television show is going to be even on a bigger level. And that's what we need. We need something else out here that answers questions instead of people going to every little fake guru underneath the sun. And there's a ton, we'll talk about that too as well. There's a ton of fake gurus out here who who literally are making killing off of sick people, right? What was I watching the other day? I saw something, and it's interesting because as soon as someone, I think it was David Sinclair, I don't like the guy, but as soon as someone says something, and I think he said something, and here I'm Googling it now, trying to figure out it. He said, oh yeah, I forget what it was called. And I'm Googling it now, and I'm going on Amazon ready to press the button. And I'm like, why am I doing this? This man is trying to push something. You know what I'm saying? He's getting something out of this. He's not pushing this thing just because. And then I looked at some of the side effects, and it was, or just some of the benefits. And a lot of it was, this is not conclusive to give this type of effect or this type of benefit. And here I am chasing a snake oilsman, salesman, snake oil salesman. So be careful with that too as well. Go get the right information. It's not every pill, potion, and lotion that we need to run behind. And share, and like, because we're starting a revolution right here, and it takes a revolution to make a solution. Yes, man.